Hey everyone, it is Evan here from the Trade Risk on Wednesday, August 14th. We are intraday right now, and this is our weekly trade ideas video where we bring you some of the names from our watch list, stocks that are holding up well, showing some relative strength. And we always say ideally not yet too extended in their move, and in this environment that is not a concern right now because most things are pulling back and in or close to oversold territory. Now, as always, these videos are powered by our partners over at Investors Business Daily. We curate ideas from their stock lists. You can get access to their stock lists with a link in the description of this video. Now, we're not going to do a full market recap here. We did one yesterday, so you can tune in to yesterday's video to get a read pulse on what we're thinking about the markets. But we did see today a pretty abrupt gap lower, and we've been essentially trading lower throughout or from the open this morning. We're down about 2.5% here in the S&P 500. So as it stands, the VIX is at about a 22 handle right now at the time of recording this. And in this type of market environment with a VIX up here and volatility elevated with 2% moves in the market to the downside and upside, that is not really a market that I want to be initiating new individual long exposure. It's just not on my agenda. I want to stay kind of tight and stay patient, but that doesn't mean I'm not scanning for ideas and scanning for stocks that are holding up well. And to me, that's what this week and this video is all about, is I'm not interested today or probably tomorrow or maybe even for the rest of this week to put on new individual stock ideas or long exposure. But I do want to pay attention to names that are holding up well for when we do start to settle down and we do stabilize here in the markets, to have a go-to list of names that have held up and outperformed and didn't have such strong technical damage. So that at least is my thought process as we start to look at some of these names. So hopefully that makes sense to you. We're going to look at 4 different long ideas or names that are holding up well, and then just kind of a quick idea or thought on some short exposure here at the end of the video. So first up is from IBD's list. This is VEEV. You can see here, this is sort of what I like to see, is the fact that, you know, when you look at some of the indices and some individual stocks, they're crashing through support, they're breaking through, prior several week lows or multi-month lows, or in some case multi-year lows or support. And to me, those are the names where I sort of want to avoid, and I want to look at something like this, VEEV, which is trading just off its all-time highs. It's pulled back in a pretty orderly, calm fashion. It's right back to the June lows, and we'd be interested to see if this can hold this support area as the market bounces around, as it goes through its ebbs and flows. If we can get something to settle in here on a leading stock like this, that's something that's interesting to me as a potential emergent, sort of continued leader when the dust sort of settles. So VEV, this is first name from IBD's list that we're looking at here. And again, just letting this kind of sit around this 154 support, see if it can hold in there, and something that holds up in the coming days and weeks. Next up is EDU. Now, EDU is a name, again, we talked about last week as well. This comes from IBD's list. And once again, you have a very similar situation here. We have a stock that's back to all-time highs. It tried to break out just a few weeks ago. It's pulled back. It's done it in a pretty orderly fashion. It's back to this rising trend line here. We have this sort of wedge developing, and this is an interesting name where, again, I'd like to see if this can continue to hold up and potentially emerge from this higher and acting as more of a leader after the market sort of catches its footing and stabilizes. So EDU back for the second week in a row from IBD's list, something there that I'm still paying attention to. And last but not least from IBD's list is COUP, Coupa Software. Here you can see, again, zooming out just under its all-time highs. It's pulling back off of those all-time highs. It's trading just about 10%, 11%. It's a higher beta name off of those highs. But notice the volume here. It's been just a very orderly pullback off of those levels. So that is what I like to see. Just a nice kind of orderly pullback here. Hasn't come with erratic, crazy volume to the downside or to the upside. And we haven't seen just, explosive ranges or ugly gap downs. It's been just this sort of cool, calm, collected pullback. So COUP, that's the third one there from IBD's list. Now, one name from our watch list is ENTG. This one here, again, if we zoom out a little bit further, you can see this tried to break out to new highs just 2 weeks ago. It failed to break out and hold those levels. It's pulled back. Again, take a look at volume down here. Very orderly pullback. Not seeing big erratic behavior. It's kind of pulled back about 30%, 20% of this last move in July that went higher to new all-time highs. And now you can see it's just trying to stabilize here. MACD's in positive territory. So again, this is the type of name that I want to pay attention to and either look for a tactical trade or something that sets up for a longer-term hold once we see the market begin to collect itself. So those are four names that are at least holding up well. Again, no immediate interest to purchase anything there. If you're a shorter term trader, if you have a different, obviously you have a different strategy than I do, then some of these might be more immediate interest to you. Now, the last thing I want to just end with is just IWM and looking at this as a potential short trade. Again, I want to be careful not to be shorting in the hole here with a VIX that's above 22. The rallies, the squeezes, the violent kind of moves higher can be equally as devastating as sort of the moves down, especially if you're short. So I do want to be conscious here of not trying to short in the hole. But I got to say that, if we start closing and losing the lows here from just earlier or frankly last week or earlier this week, then the IWM has a lot of air down here. If it starts to lose, say the June low here and then these recent lows where it's trading, there's not a whole lot. We kind of V-shaped up here at the beginning of the year from December, Christmas Eve, where we turned around and we started to rally. We haven't been back down there. It's been kind of a straight shot up. So if we start to break down here, the IWM's looking quite vulnerable. Again, it's still a high risk trade because shorting in the hole is always sort of a difficult proposition. So you have to be able to manage risk and bail out of that trade. But if we get some closes below 146, IWM looks pretty vulnerable. Out of all the major indices, it is definitely the one that is still weakest and kind of most vulnerable in my eyes. So that's really the last sort of name there. I'll leave you with something I'm looking at as well, but again, stay safe. You don't have to trade every day. Haven't been trading much at all, frankly none at all, over the past 6 or 7 or 8 trading days since this volatility emerged, and right now that's still the plan, although looking at the short trade here and looking at a couple of other ideas. So that's it for me. Thanks so much as always for tuning in every Wednesday to trade ideas just like this. Let's see how the market finishes out the week and take things one day at a time. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next video.